and we come in, and it's a long scene, and it's us coming in, and we're all stripping off in the scene. So I come in, start stripping off, and immediately realise sock is gone.
Sans sock.
The coins are out. and Connor clocks it straight away. And I don't know if they use this take in the scene, because you can just see his sort of eyes kind of go like, well.
Yeah.
Welcome to Before the Lights. If you're new here, we're a team of health professionals based in London who train people from all over the creative world to get ready for TV, film, even live shows, but most importantly, for everyday life. I'm Dave Hasty.
I'm George Ashwell.
I'm Georgia Canavan.
And I'm Josh Betteridge.
We've been lucky enough to build a pretty special group of members here at the club, so we thought it would be nice for other people to get to know some of them as well as we do.
I was like, I need to start going to the gym. So I literally got out my laptop, and was like, PTs for actors.
Welcome to Before the Lights podcast, guys. I'm Greg James. With me over here is Dangerous Dave, and here is Evil George. And today we're talking grind set.
Grind set?
It's not about mindset, guys. It's about grind set.
It was the very first time I met you when you came in and you actually had to run off and be sick in the toilet.
You feel quite vulnerable when you're kind of lying on your back with your legs up in the air because you feel sick, just breathing, and I'm like, this never happens. I'm so sorry.
So sit back, only do some exercise if you want to, and maybe even learn something about how to look after yourself. Now, to start the podcast, what we do is we each pick a book and we read 10 pages.
Okay, I'm going to go for... Oh my God. That is weird.
Is this going to be good or bad?
Right? So it's a Welsh book of poetry, yeah?
So, can you read a Welsh poem to us?
Yeah, what?
I want this to be the start. I want this to be the start of the podcast.
Okay.
You know these off by heart, obviously.
Yeah, I'm just getting...
Just jogging the memory.
Okay, we've got Hywel Angharad. Yn fy ngwely neisiwr cysgais, yn fy nghwsg y mêl freuddwydais, fod fy mhen ar fron angharad, hithau yn fy ngalw'n gariad, minnau'n sibrwd fy angharad.
Beautiful.
It does go on. It's a little love poem between Hywel and Angharad. That's so strange that that's the first one I looked at.
We planted that right there.
Also, because we were talking in the gym, weren't we? He was like, Welsh sounds so medieval. And I was like, well, it is a medieval language, like so old. And I was like, I could probably just about read Welsh to from the 6th, 7th century.
And that's where that
was from.
This is,
what are we talking? 14th century. You know what I mean?
Easy.
A bit more sort of Chaucer vibes. Yeah.
How many times have you read that book?
A few times. I brought this with me. I just before we went to the gym, I just snuck this in.
You're like desperate for things to talk about. You're like, what are we going to talk about?
That's so funny. Okay, I'm glad that's there.
Welcome back to the Before the Lights podcast. Today, I'm joined by Josh. Thank you for coming and sitting with me.
Thank you, Josh.
I thought I'm the guest now.
Well, you haven't been on this season, have you?
Yeah, it's a very nice environment this season.
Why haven't you been on this season, Josh?
I think we wanted
just to sort of flip the role of the interviewer and the interviewee.
You are the guest now, Josh.
It's a good question. You know that meme was the guy who then just leans forward.
Oh yeah, okay. Well, I can do that.
You know, this only works
if
you
quite
talk into the microphone. If you talk away from the microphone, nothing happens.
Is that how it works?
So Josh is here, and we are actually not interviewing Josh.
Was I supposed to be quiet until you introduced me there?
Well, that was loosely the plan.
Okay,
I didn't
I'll
tell you
shut
that
up
beforehand, though. Well, welcome you properly. It's Jacob Ifan.
Hello.
Is that a good? How's my Welsh?
Say it again.
Jacob.
Yeah, but you went sort of Scouse, but that's okay. That's quite close to Welsh.
What's the difference?
What is the difference? Ooh. That's the age-old question.
Ooh. Jacob Ifan.
Yeah. Or Ifan. So when you have the one F in Welsh, that's the V sound.
Ifan.
And then you see the two Fs, that's the F
So I got
sound.
it completely wrong.
You know, it was almost... Also, you're giving like a little bit of a on the Jacob. Sort of Jacob.
It's a classic.
It was the way you looked at me.
Liked it.
It was the way you looked at me made me think
nervous?
I need to add a bit of sauce on this. And it came out as Jacob.
Yeah, Jacob, mate.
I'm going to go Jacob Ifan.
Perfect.
Oh.
Yeah, smashed it. Yeah,
That's pretty good.
Isn't there another? Do you have a middle name as well?
That is my middle name. So my last name is Prydderch.
I'm not going to go near that.
Come on. That's an accent.
Prydderch.
Yeah, exactly.
That I felt like my tongue just melted. I just needed to follow that.
It's hard even for a lot of Welsh people to say. It's quite a difficult.
Could you now, for the listeners, go from start to finish of the name?
Jacob Ifan Prydderch.
Oh, it's beautiful. It's beautiful, isn't it?
The language. It's hard for me to say that, but
it's better than
thank
Josh
you very
Berry.
much.
He also told me that AP is the equivalent of like son of.
So Dave would be Dave Ap John, son of John. You would be, of course, Josh Ap Dick, Josh Ap Richard. Shout out to Big Rich if he's listening, who's celebrated his 72nd birthday recently.
This
I
guy.
believe.
Asking questions about who's been doing
I've
research.
also done deep dives on both of
Turns
yours.
out you've been really doing the research.
Really.
He spoke to both our parents.
Yeah. Well, I just thought I've got to get to know these guys.
And what did you learn?
Not much, man. They don't seem to know that much about
That's
you.
probably
so-
true. I'd say my dad probably forgets how old I am.
Yeah.
Calls me my brother's name. So yeah.
But
you
shout out
you
to
have
those
spoken
guys.
to. You definitely have spoken
Well,
to.
thanks for having me anyway.
Oh, very glad you've come on. We'll do a little intro as to why people would know you. I think it's probably most recently from SAS Rogue Heroes,
Yeah.
which is why we met you. What, 3 years ago?
I reckon longer.
Four, maybe a bit more. Yeah, about 4 years
So
ago.
4 years ago, Jacob was introduced to us in preparation for the first season of
Yeah,
SAS
that's
Rogue
it.
Heroes.
I'm really a fitness guy. And then
You weren't to the point that your first actual session was interrupted 25 minutes in, I think, by vomit.
Vomit, green. He went very pale.
And
I
then
remember.
you had to go outside and lie on your back with your legs in the air.
Like I said, I wasn't really a fitness guy.
Yeah, that's putting it lightly.
It's like a nice way of saying I was really unfit.
It's right, really.
Yeah,
unfit.
I would have said it in a different way.
Shockingly so.
I remember, well, it was embarrassing because over lockdown, I sort of was like, this is probably a good opportunity to like start doing something. And then so I started like running and doing some proper backyard exercises. I didn't own any fitness gear, so I'd like fill like Tesco's bags with books and I would like curl in those in the garden.
Nice.
And clearly that wasn't preparation enough for a session with Dave. And so yeah, it was a tough start, but it's been a long journey. We've been going together.
We've been on a journey and
And
we're still together.
Culminating in a session today where I almost threw up
Yeah.
again.
That had been the
Full
first.
circle.
It had been
So
the
nothing's
first,
really changed.
first one-to-one session for a little while.
Yeah, I think that's maybe
And
why.
at one point you did just go like, "Oop." I was like,
Yeah.
"What's wrong?" I was like, "I've just been sick of my mouth."
Yeah, it was less of a dramatic sort of event.
Well, you
than the
managed to
first
actually
time.
stay and complete the rest of the session, whereas last time it was.
Yeah,
that was it.
That was all
You weren't
systems
coming back
go,
from it.
Do you
red
remember,
light.
and do you remember that old gym? The first gym we had was almost like a prison sort of garden because it was just like like a wall.
Yes.
You just walled in.
Yeah,
You
there
can't
was
really
that little
escape.
outdoor sort of cell bit. It was like
Tiny
the
little
exercise.
courtyard,
Yeah,
yeah.
where I would go and do my steps.
5 up, 5 back.
Yeah. Whereas this is a much more comfortable environment to be ill in.
It's lovely. It's lovely. Going back to SAS Rogue Heroes, can you, for anyone that's not seen it, which isn't that many people, I would suggest.
Come on.
A lot of people have been watching the show. Can you give them a bit of a rundown of what it is?
Yeah, so like the title suggests, it's basically a story about the founding of the SAS during the Second World War. So it was founded in North Africa during the Libya campaign, and they were these band of men who were brought together by David Sterling, Jock Lewis and Paddy Mayne in a sort of new attempt at guerrilla warfare almost. You know, these were people who were unruly, who were insubordinate, who weren't very good at taking orders, but what they had was sort of a quality in them of maybe a slight insanity that was utilized, and they began going behind enemy lines and getting dropped by planes into the desert and destroying enemy aircraft that way. And they were so successful that they went on to be the first people to liberate Italy, which was the series that's just finished. So the story is incredible. If no one knows the story, it was a book by Ben
Yeah, I was going to
McIntyre
say,
who
because
did the history.
I remember
of it.
you'd obviously read it probably in the lead up to doing the auditions
Yeah.
and stuff. I remember you brought it into the gym.
Yeah.
And you were like, you should read it, it's really good.
Well, that's the thing, and I wouldn't be someone who would usually sit down and read history books. Since then, I've really gotten into history in a bigger way, but it's such a fascinating read and stranger than fiction. So a hard thing with the job was always kind of being, I think, for the creators and the writers. And so Stephen Knight did the adaptation of the book and was going, what do you leave in and what do you leave out? Because often, if you left everything that was in the book, no one would believe it was true. So it's only from reading the book that you kind of get a sense of these men and what they were capable of and how wild the war was for them.
It's so unbelievable, but at the
Yeah.
same time, you're like, it is real. They're real people, and it
Real
really
people,
happened. Have you ever played like a real person in that way before? Was that a different thing you had to kind of prepare for?
No, I don't think I have. I haven't played a real person. I think it's just the research changes, and I think the weight of responsibility changes, and I think it's down to you to sort of as a cast and as a show to do service to those people in a different way. Whereas if it's a fictional character, I think it's a completely different kind of responsibility. You owe a responsibility to the script to do your work, and to the show because you want it to be good and you want it to be successful. But I think it holds a different kind of.
Can
weight,
you explain? Because your character's American, which adds like an extra level of confusion to it.
So just to confuse also because it's never really explained. I think the truth is Pat. So I play Pat Riley. And he was one of they called them the originals. So there was a band of men who was, one of the first to be recruited by Jock and by David Sterling, who sort of were, they're heralded as heroes still. They were heroes, but you go to the bases in Hertfordshire, the SAS, and the statues of all these men of the originals. And Pat was a member of the Coldstream Guards, but he was a US citizen, so they tried to call him up to fight for the US during the war, and he was already deep in the British Army because he wanted to fight for the British, because he moved there when he was young, really. Born in Wisconsin, moved over, but the producers wanted a sense that he was different and he was American, so that's why the accent came in. And, because sometimes you have to tell a story without being able to tell the whole story. You can't focus on all the characters, so there's a way of sneaking in details about them,
But also there's that Sicilian tongue.
Well, look, that might be a dramatic tool
as
there,
Jacob sweeps his hair back, as you mentioned. The
I was
Sicilian
thinking that
tongue.
actually. So that's like in reference to in the second season that's just been out.
Yeah,
You
well, that
basically do, like,
Italian
it's-
name, Pat Riley.
There's a whole bit where it's like a little speech in Italian.
Yeah.
And I remember watching it and thinking
It's
like,
beautiful.
how hard was that to get to nail it?
Well, it was
how many
funny
takes did that take?
I actually know. Do you know what it was?
Just one.
It was first time. Because I don't speak Italian. And then all of a sudden we get the second series through and they call me up and says, by the way, you're going to be speaking quite a lot of Italian in this series, kind of from nowhere. I thought, okay. And
Was that actually something that he as a person did, or was they just added it in to be like
that was just for a nice little storyline,
cinematic?
which was fun to do. But I think as the series goes on, it might slightly veer away. It says at the start of every episode, this is not a history lesson. So it's kind of rooted in truth, and a lot of the characters, most of the characters are real. Pretty much all of the events did happen, but of course there's little flourishes that didn't exist. So the Italian was one of those, but I just focused on nailing down those lines as opposed to learning Italian, because I thought I could start.
If you're in a restaurant,
I knew exactly, but those
words will come out if you're trying to order dinner.
It's really funny because obviously I've met Italian since then, and sometimes I'll just like spring a line from nowhere, and it's all about like secret messages and codes, and there's a spy amongst you, there's a rat amongst the pigeons.
Just go up to people,
and then you could just see their eyes kind of be like that, and then I'll just turn back to the table and carry on my conversation. You could just see them be really bewildered.
I played football with an Italian football club in Melbourne, where there's a lot of Italian migrants who've moved over there post-war, and they just taught me 3 words. Or just 3 Italian swear words is all I learned.
Oh, and can we say them on the pod? Are you allowed to swear in Italian on the pod?
Only in Italian.
Do I say pods? Does that sound a bit naff on the podcast?
I'm going to swear in a moment in English, and so I used to get pissed off playing football and just fuck you, then yellow card.
Oh, okay, so we are.
But the Italians were there going, if you swear in Italian or a different language,
okay.
The ref won't pick it up. So
the one they taught me a few. So there was 2 Italian actors who were with me a lot of the time, and all of our scenes were together, which was Anna Manueli and Matteo Franco.
That was the most Welsh.
Anna Manueli.
That was the most Welsh an Italian has ever. You couldn't have sounded more Welsh when you said that.
Yeah, I think it's pronounced Anna Manueli. But anyway, they told me the one, my favourite was Faccia di Schiaffi, which means you have a face that I'd like to slap.
That's a good one.
Which I think is really good, and
That's
I think
a
you know
nice
exactly what you're talking about.
We'll go back into like the physical preparation. So obviously,
Nah.
no, not at all.
Don't embarrass me for
Not
that.
at all. Not at all.
Yeah.
But you were wanting. So there wasn't so much a request from the production, was there, originally, to like get in shape or to feel in shape, but you wanted for your own self. We've established that you were at the bottom of the physical pyramid when you first came in.
That. I didn't say that.
I wouldn't have said that, Jack. I wouldn't have said that.
I agree.
He'd done his curls with his Tesco's bag, and he went, you know what? That's
I'm
enough.
ready to go.
That's enough
Send
for
me in.
Send me off to Morocco.
What Jacob thought was going to happen, he was going to walk into the gym. We would go,
Well,
there's nothing to be done here.
You've
done all the hard work.
It wasn't about physical strength. Yeah? It was about having the mental fortitude. And I believe what I showed in that first gym session was the mental fortitude to at least do a 25-minute session.
You crumbled like a digestive biscuit.
But I came back.
Yeah, you did come back. You did come back. But the point I was making was less than an attack on you personally, which is what it sort of turned into.
I'll be
there.
the judge of that.
And I apologise for that. But you came. I remember you saying you wanted to kind of just put yourself in a position where you were kind of like physically tired and trying to learning that feeling and just getting ready to go and film that first season.
Well, I think that's it more, is that these men, we weren't going off to do a Marvel film with this expectation of the perfect body and all these like jack guys, because they weren't. They were very normal, often very young as well, men who were half the time very malnourished as well. They were fighting in the desert. But what they had was, they were definitely fit, they were definitely tenacious, and they definitely had that like steel. And I think like you couldn't, even doing the job, you felt like if you was being soft, did it become
really a bit of that, like a bit of a kind of like macho boys club thing?
Yeah, but also not really. I mean, everyone's really supportive, but also in the sense you're humbled by the fact that you're just acting, right? So you get to go to your trailer if you need. You get to go to a hotel at the end of it every night. They were hard days. We were filming in the Sahara for about 10, 11 weeks. And it was because we were supposed to film it early in the year and COVID and everything pushed it. So we were filming in summer. So it was about 50 degrees often when we were filming. And, they're long days. And
even
there
just
were
standing around in that kind of heat is
taxing,
and
all the Moroccans were kind of like, what the hell are you doing? We don't even work here in these conditions. But you thought, well, but at least we have all these luxuries, and we have someone running with an umbrella and some water at the end of a take, you know what I mean? And so if you've started complaining compared to what these men actually went through, I think it was very it's
pretty good time
put
to
you
film,
in your spot a little bit. Yeah. Well, it means you didn't have to act, you know what I mean? You were just
just stand around there and look tired. Got it, mate. Got it.
Well, actually, the hard thing was a lot of the series in the first series is set in winter, and obviously winter at night in the desert gets really cold. So we would be shooting day for night, which is a technique in film where you film in the day and obviously they CGI nighttime. So we would be wearing sheepskin coats, full woolens,
in 50
aviator jackets, in 50-degree heat.
Nice.
Pretending to be cold.
And
they like they would like
sweat
CGI like condensation, or like our breath would be going, and then you'd also see us sweating at the same time.
Just someone running on to like moppy brow.
Yeah, exactly. How
did you enjoy the process leading up to going out there in the first place? Like the training side of things you were in quite a bit. You were doing like what, three sessions a week or something like that
with you guys? I actually loved it. And by now because of that time, it just became a part of my life.
It definitely kind of changed your routine, didn't it?
100%. And I think it was nice because I think the blessing is, often actors have the privilege, one, that they're pressurized into doing these things, but they have time. But what that did was kickstart a routine. And I think once you do something for X amount of months, I don't know how long they say it takes, but it
was
about
long
4,
enough.
5, 6
One of the
months.
things I've written down was to bring up that you ended up looking a bit like a Victorian strongman by the end of it.
Well, because there was one day I wore a white vest.
And
I had a moustache.
And you had a moustache. For like a listener to picture, it's that a man in a leotard going like, what?
It was
like that kind of vibe.
Old school strength, It was, or you have those like comedy.
You insisted on only training with those
with the big
ones with the balls
at the end.
But you've got super strong in those last sort of 4 years since you started. You can see that you've put on a lot of muscle as well.
Now he's just flirting.
Super strong.
Tell me what's your secret. No, but nutrition wise, because you love to cook. You're a hell of a good cook. I remember having the best curries of my life at your house.
Thank you very much.
The rice
I do really like that. Yeah, that's it, man. Just curry. I just curry and train.
Hey, it's working.
No, but for food, that was an interesting one because I've got into the routine since you guys are working out. I find that actually a lot easier than the food stuff.
Before you'd actually started, what was your like knowledge base in terms of like nutrition and exercise and that kind of stuff?
Really minimal.
Yeah.
But then I get quite obsessive about stuff, and so like if I get into something, I'll like really get into it for like 6 months, or you know what I mean? And then I'll move on, I'll get bored and I'll do something else. So since then it's quite good, but the nutrition side of it was a really interesting one. And I kind of come to the gym and exercise so I can live my life in a way that I enjoy. So
By
I like
that-
going out to
by
eat.
that
I
you
like
mean
kind of eating
getting into the Selkirk and having a few pints
couple
of
of
Guinness.
pints at the Selkirk. Do you know what I mean? But without beating myself up about it.
Yeah.
So, but then I've had certain times where I've gone, okay, I'm going to strip back on that and concentrate on eating well and doing all the health stuff. And it is wild, the difference when you actually focus on the food side of stuff and you realize like that's most of it, right?
Yeah, if you eat a bit better, sleep a bit more, you go, fucking hell.
Yeah,
Training's
it's like,
actually really easy.
yeah, and the physical difference is really
Yeah.
it happens really quickly. Yeah.
Now that you kind of like you've established that, is that the training is more part of your weekly routine then? Would you feel a bit like you were missing something if you weren't
Yeah, 100%.
fitting something in?
Yeah, definitely. Like even last week, I just had a really busy week and I didn't work out, and I felt a bit like I don't know if that's a healthy relationship or not, but I've definitely felt sort of more anxious about it towards the end of the week. I was like, I got to get back.
But it's more like I find like it's more of a feeling of needing to move.
Yeah.
More than
Yeah.
more than it being. I think it becomes not necessarily unhealthy. It depends how you approach it. But if it's more of a aesthetic driven thing where you're like, I'm going to get smaller or this or whatever's going to happen. For me, it's more of like a feeling of like,
Need to just do
I
something.
haven't used enough energy this week. I can feel it.
Yeah, and I love the feeling of being tired after
Yeah,
doing
yeah,
work. Do
yeah.
you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I think it's that and like the endorphins and all that kind of stuff. That's the thing that's addictive and nice.
I'd say it's probably fair to say we changed how your entire household operates in that sense.
Yeah.
So housemate
Actually,
Edward
it is
Blumell.
literally
So Edward's been on the
entire-
show before, and
Yeah.
I'd say he came in.
He's looking great.
He was a guy that could run.
He can still run.
He can run.
That boy can run.
I've seen him. He's flown past me as I was walking my dog when he was doing park run.
Really?
And the boy,
He's quick.
the boy moves.
The boy
he was
moves.
flying.
What's he running away from, though? Hey, Edward?
Yeah.
That's what we've got to ask ourselves.
Edward, come in and tell us.
Well, if you don't,
Why are you doing 20k a week?
Yeah, 20k a
Where are
week.
you going, man?
We need to do a second.
Is it
Where are
hiding?
you
Is it
off
like,
to?
not
What are you training for?
he's physically running from something, not
Yeah,
a mental
yeah.
thing.
We're gonna call him
He's
out. We'll
always
call him
ready
out
to
now.
go.
We need an Instagram response
Yeah,
to this question.
he'll answer.
Yeah, he probably will. He's active, isn't he? He's on there. He's on
Well,
there.
he's at home in Somerset now, so I bet if we called him, he would answer.
Yeah.
What are you running from,
What do you
mate?
remember?
Would you say like now that there's the two of you guys would come in quite a bit, and is it quite nice to have that when you're I suppose because like you said with being an actor, you have periods of time where, and we've spoken about this a few times with other people, that when you're on, you're on, when you're off, you're off.
Yeah,
And it's nice to have that kind of routine. I think our gym has become almost like a social space for people that
100%.
in the industry will pop
Yeah,
in and
yeah,
out
yeah.
at roughly the same kind of time and see each other at the same kind of time.
I think it's definitely that. I think it's when you're going through those periods of maybe you're in between jobs, there's fallow period, or maybe just work's not happening. It's a tricky industry, and there's been loads of times over the last few years with stuff like COVID or the strikes where loads of actors have been out of work. And actually, I mean, you look at the statistics, I think it's something like only 5% of actors are in work at any given time
Really?
that are signed on to equity.
Yeah.
It's something wild. It's definitely
Wow.
around 5. I mean, and it's definitely under 10. So having some sort of structure and having somewhere you can go and like socialize with other people,
Come and do a crossword.
come do a crossword, chat to Alex Fine for half an hour.
Yeah.
45 minutes, hour and a half.
Exactly. Well, that's why you're always like, God, I feel like you're doing such long sessions at the moment. I'm like, yeah, because I'm not really doing anything.
Oh well, I trained Jack up just
I'm
before,
chatting a bit.
and I was like, "What's the intensity level difference?" Because it's like when you're in the gym without a trainer, there's a lot of time kind of just faffing. I would say I do it as well. You just sort of walk around, check your phone, sort of stand and do nothing for quite a long period
Yes,
of time, and then
lovely.
but when someone is like, right, you're onto that,
That's
you're onto
right.
that, you're onto
Yeah,
that.
yeah.
How did
Check
it
the
feel
news
coming
feed.
back into like a 1-to-1 session? Were you
Oh, it was
were you a
horrible.
bit like, oh my god, it's a lot harder?
No, it's good because you actually feel like, oh, I can't just rest.
Yeah, if
Because
you just sat down and got your phone
pick up
out.
your phone and then
Yeah.
Yeah.
you
I'm
check
just
your email and then you have
standing
a
next to
chat
you for
with
10
someone,
minutes.
and then all of a sudden I've just wasted time. I remember I worked out with when we were doing the second series that we had some of the new cast come on, and it's an actor called Mark Rowley. He's a brilliant Scottish actor, and he's an absolute like beefcake. He's in great nick, and he learnt to train from Magnus, who was like
Oh, Big Magnus.
Oh, that guy.
big Swedish
Yeah.
like strongest man
Yeah,
in the
yeah,
world,
yeah.
gladiator. He was, I think they were doing Last Kingdom, that show.
He worked
He was
on
like, I used to train with Magnus, and he's like, he kind of taught me how to train, and I was like, what a mad experience. And he was like, he would go in for 45 minutes, but just work
Solidly.
really intensely
Yeah.
in 45 minutes. And he's
Yeah.
like, I don't want to, as someone who's this big, I don't want to spend all my life in the gym.
Yeah.
So he concocted a way of doing it.
But
But let's say, and sometimes I'd work out with Mark, and I was like, I'm back to that first session with you.
that's what's really important though. You can make huge changes just with a 45 minute, which is 3%
massive.
of your day really. And 45 minutes, you take your rest periods down, you will see much greater changes for your body just by taking 90 seconds maximum rest in between movements.
I like hanging out though.
But 3 minutes is nice
I
because
like
you get
hanging
to
out with
share
the boys.
Yeah, it's nice, isn't it? We just
Yeah,
dial it
nice.
up and down as and when you need to.
Yeah, exactly.
In those fallow periods, you have loads of chit chats.
Just to confirm, that was the one bit of fitness advice in this whole podcast.
There's not a lot of
Done.
fitness advice on this.
Bro
podcast.
noise. What were you talking about in the gym?
Oh, it was like, can we get that level of bro podcast where nothing actually gets said? It's almost like all the words between the bits that are like important.
Yeah.
That
There's a
that
great-
makes it seem like a conversation, but you don't actually get anything out of it.
But like those Joe Rogan podcasts or whatever, like when they have like a 3 hour, half hour.
You did
like,
a really good
pseudo
impression. If you're willing to do it, it was very
science. Well, it was just kind of. Well, I sort of stole it, so I have to give credit. Where, Tim Heidecker, the comedian, he had that show. It's a sketch show. Tim and Eric, really funny American comedian. But where they fill the air with sort of nothing, and they're always kind of verging on having a conversation about some sort of topic, but they never quite do. And it's really brilliant. So if anyone hasn't checked it out, type in the Tim Heidecker podcast. It's great.
When you're listening, is it that expectation? You're like, oh, they're going to talk about something, and then it just sort of dies down.
Yeah.
I think
a
a
lot
lot
of
of
those
podcasts,
And that guy,
Yeah.
because I think last week we sort of touched on, it's been a while, and there's this guy in Sweden, he's sort of an expert on neuroplasticity. Yeah, bro, he's making so many, and they're really so much gains in that field,
Yeah.
It's kind of
And then
amazing.
if
Tell
you-
me.
If you're actually trying to listen for
What are
something,
you talking about?
There's nothing that is said. It's a skill, though. It's a skill.
It's a skill. It is
It's a skill. We're going to take a pivot out of that, and we're going to go into the Welsh speaking TV and theatre roles and those kind of things. So I think a lot of listeners don't necessarily, and I would say I probably hadn't really ever given it any thought until spending time with you, that there's a whole industry, and there's a creative community in Wales, and there's Welsh language TV shows and all the rest of it, and I found it so interesting, and you've worked in that quite a bit, haven't you?
Yeah. So I love going back to Wales and working in Wales and being able to work in that language.
Yeah, and sorry to interrupt. Is it would you say it's your first language?
Yeah.
Welsh.
Yeah.
So at home, that is the language you
At home,
use.
we would always be speaking in Welsh, and my education and most of my friends back home, if I'm back with them, we'll be chatting in Welsh most of the time.
Yeah.
So it's interesting. I did a show years ago called Bang on S4C that we did a couple of series of, and that was an interesting one because I did another series called Hinterland, which sort of opened the door to a lot of other Welsh dramas, or gave it a slightly more international audience. And what they did with that show was they filmed the entirety of it in Welsh and the entirety of it in English.
Oh wow!
So they could market it in different ways. They could sell it in English, they could sell it in Welsh, they could actually mix the two. So some countries were interested in having that, and some countries were interested in just having the Welsh
that's amazing.
subtitles.
Never heard
And
of
then when they did Bang, I think the writer Roger Williams was interested in the real nature of how people speak Welsh. Is often you're constantly flitting between the two. Like, I'm sure you've seen me in the gym with
Well, I've
other
noticed
Welsh
there's
speakers.
certain words where you're like, you can kind of keep pace of what you're talking about, but without
I
knowing.
could have a sentence to you, then I was saying something to Welsh, and then it would kind of like, man. So he wrote this series that existed in that way. So it wasn't like we were doing every take in both languages.
So I was going to say, does the script work in both languages? Because obviously, when you write in French as opposed to English,
it's slightly different.
You have to change quite a lot of things to make it make sense.
It's
don't
horrible as an actor as well,
you? Really?
because you have to learn 2 sets of dialogue in 2 different languages. They're so similar, but it's slightly different.
Yeah.
So as like a strange memory test, it's quite a difficult show to do.
Could you have read it in English
and
and
just
then just translated it on your own? Do you reckon?
Yeah, I could, but then the consistency of what you were saying would probably I'd change it every time.
Oh, yeah.
Probably
That would be
slightly,
such a challenge,
you know?
wouldn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
You'd really get in your own head about it, I reckon, after a
Yeah,
while.
you'd be all right, but then, so it's a different, and also the way I speak Welsh is very different to someone who lives 10 minutes down the road in Machynlleth, say, would speak Welsh. So if someone's a writer and they're not from really bang on where you're from, it's going to sound slightly unnatural to you. So they're very good in Wales. You can basically tweak it to make it sound
Are there
right
lots of
and normal.
different like regional dialects to Welsh.
Different dialects, different words, different.
And Jack, which part are you from? Sorry, exactly.
So I was
Just
born
for
in
listeners.
Cardiff, and
Yeah.
then I moved to Aberystwyth when I was a kid, so I was 9.
Yeah.
So Aberystwyth is home for me, but Cardiff as well, so I would consider home. So Aberystwyth, for people who don't know, it's right on the coast in West Mid Wales.
And sort of language dialects. Here's my English ignorance here, but the difference between the language between Cardiff and Aberystwyth, speaking Welsh, it can be
less for those two. I mean,
Yeah.
definitely accent and approach, and also people talk about this loads, and I think it's really interesting. Is personality. So people talk about having a slightly different personality when they speak different languages. Which you were
really?
talking about Italian there. As soon as you were, your body, you change your sort of demeanour and your sense of humour.
What's
almost
Welsh
changes.
Jacob then? What's he like?
Oh, he's so charming.
Is he?
Really witty. Yeah, he's really funny. If he was on here, you know,
makes real
have
good
a blast. Yeah. I've got to constantly sort of translate in my head, so I'm dimmed down a little bit.
Yeah, these
But
English
it
guys
is.
wouldn't
It
get
is. You are slightly different, and it's impossible for you to know the difference because the people that you speak Welsh with, they know that version or that side to you, and the people who don't can never know
have
you.
you
in that
had like
context.
friends that you've? But your drama school was in Wales, was it?
Yeah, so I went to the Royal Welsh College of Music and Drama, which is in Cardiff.
I was going to say, were there many? Is that where you met Ed?
Yeah.
So
yeah,
I guess he's probably seen Welsh you and English speaking you.
But not Welsh speaking me. He
Yeah.
can never meet Welsh speaking me until he learns Welsh.
Yeah, you're holding that.
Well,
way
on those long runs, he's got a bit of time in the old head.
There's an
Yeah,
AirPod
yeah,
in,
there's
listening
something.
away.
It'd be interesting to see. It's like if we came to Aberystwyth with you and just spent a week and be like,
Oh, I see. Just
is he like
observed me.
that's a totally different guy?
But we could do a spin-off of the podcast where you follow me for. This is the long form.
Yeah,
You
like a
follow
documentary
me for a weekend in
documentary series.
Aberystwyth.
I think that could work. Jimmy, can we?
Going through. We could do it.
Can you get
I'm
onto
not
the?
an alcoholic, but there's
Is that the name of the series?
Yeah. I'm not an alcoholic. Trust me. No, but Aberystwyth, I don't know if it still is because of the death of pubs, but definitely 10 years ago when I was growing up, Aberystwyth was the most, and I coined this phrase, pubulated place in the UK.
Trademark.
So I think it had something like 50 pubs per square mile.
Wow.
So,
Sounds like a fun place.
Well, because it's a university
uni
town.
town, isn't it?
Yeah.
So half the population are students, so you have to cater that, and the other half love drinking.
Yeah.
So I just thought maybe as a podcast we could do sort of an odyssey
We'll embed ourselves
where we go from one to
a giant
from
pub
each
crawl.
one. Yeah.
A 50 pub crawl.
A 50 pub crawl.
Okay, we need a month off.
Yeah.
We're going to move on
Okay, sweet.
from our.
Whoa.
We're going to move on from our Welsh tales, and I want to come on to the section that we've dubbed for this season, "Humbled in Hollywood."
Whoa.
And I would say, if you can't remember any stories that may be sort of, they are often with other guests loosely gym related, but not always. We have had people on dog walks, on set.
Dave, I'm humbled every day.
I have 3, I think, for you. Like, in case you don't say them.
Wow. Just in our short relationship that you banked
in the
them.
4 years.
Yeah. Okay.
In the
Well,
4
I'm
years,
happy
I
to
think
hear those.
I've got a couple.
No,
I'm going to let you go
humbled all the
first.
time. I tell you what, actually, Rogue Heroes as an entire job was very humbling. But I do remember there was one, not that we were working towards an aesthetic thing, but there was a scene in like episode 3 or 4 where we get inspected by a doctor for sort of desert sores, etc., and we all have to get completely naked, right? We didn't know how this was going to be filmed or how it was done. So we wore, I mean, a lot of humbling things happened this day. First of all, they were like lining us up, and it's quite a hard job. Like, I'm not the biggest guy, right? I'm 5.
Oh,
let's
sorry.
say 8.
So
You
can we
know,
just clarify
just
what we're
about.
talking about here?
Do you mean height or
Yeah, okay. Yeah, we're just
lying
talking-
down or?
Yeah. Oh god. But it's a land of the giants, that job. Like, every boy in it is like 6'2", 6'3", 6'4", like quite big lads, right? Anyway, so they're lining us up, and they put me next to Tom Glencarney. Now, no shade on Tom Glencarney, but I was like, oh, okay, well, this is all right, actually.
It's a nice match.
Don't feel too intimidated here. And then they stick Theo Barklam Biggs next to me, who's completely naked, who is in like unbelievable shape.
Absolutely jacked, isn't he? Because
Absolutely
he plays
tonk.
like an ex-fighter boxer.
Yeah, so his
type.
character Reg Seekings was this ex-boxer, sort of London hard man, but big beefcake of a bloke. And Theo really, he took that upon himself and he ran with it. So I'm next to Theo, who's an Adonis. So that was the first humbling thing that happened. And then I don't know for people who are not in the industry. So the way this works when you're doing nudity is they give you something in the industry we call a cocksock, which is essentially like a coin purse with a drawstring.
It's a
that
smaller
you have
piece
to
of
tuck your appendage into,
Yeah.
and then sort of like tighten. They're like the worst. I don't know how else you would do
I
it,
can't
but they're like
imagine
really
putting one on.
badly
It seems
designed
like such
things.
a weird thing
I
to
feel
have
like
to
there's
do.
a better way to do it. I don't know.
Just blur it out.
Just blur it out. Hey, let it all hang out. And so I had on one of these, but we had a lunch break, and obviously in the lunch break something, I don't know,
Something's come loose.
Something's come loose. And so we get back onto set, and at this point the cameras have all turned and it's all on Connor, who's doing the speech. So it just means that Connor's in front of us, the cameras are all here, but the crew are all sort of like tucked in and around him, right? And we come in and it's a long scene, and it's us coming in and we're all stripping off in the scene. So I come in, start stripping off, and immediately realise sock is gone.
Sans sock.
The coins are out. and I can't stop the scene. It's not my take, right?
Yeah.
And Connor clocks it straight away. And I don't know if they use this take in the scene, because you can just see his sort of eyes kind of go like, well. And I'm there with like 150 strong like crew, all looking
Just
at me.
standing there bollock naked.
Yeah. I don't know if it's. I mean, there's loads of times where you kind of think. It's often when you go
must
like,
have
what
been
the
like
hell am I
trying-
doing? What is my job?
Trying not to laugh though so much in that moment.
Yeah. I
Just
think
having
he
to
was
stand there.
definitely. Yeah.
It's like nothing to see. Absolutely.
No,
fine.
I was steely faced.
That was one of the stories that I was going to
Oh,
say.
really?
If you weren't going to bring it up, the other one,
Oh,
which I think we
great.
spoke about in the gym earlier, which is kind of it's in the same vein, isn't it? Let's be honest.
I don't know.
You went to our old gym, our initial gym.
Oh,
I'll paint the picture. There was the shower was through the gym, but often
Mm-hmm.
people would come in and leave their bags in this kind of like kitchen-y sofa area before you came into the gym.
yeah.
So Jacob, I think you'd finished your session and just gone like, right, straight in the shower.
Yeah.
Forgetting to take any.
Cleanliness is important to
Yeah,
me.
yeah, you're so desperate to have a
So,
wash.
yeah, get in
Didn't take your clothes or a towel in there.
there. Yeah.
And then I think nobody was really in that room. So when you opened the door, you'd come
I
out
was
into this
stuck.
one room. So he was kind of like just in there and sort of like shuffling out completely naked. Like, anybody?
This is not painting a good picture on this podcast. Like, all of my happening stories. And then I was naked again.
Yeah.
It's a bit like that. You know when
all by accident.
oh, what's he called? Patrick Stewart, when he's on Extras, and the recurring thing is, "Man, I've seen everything."
Yeah.
I kind of feel like that. Like every story is like, and then Jacob was naked.
And then he was naked.
Yeah, like some strange exhibitionist.
It was just watching him shuffle out from in that room and then realizing like, what's happening? Oh, he's completely naked. What? And then
Well, it's good that
all
you've,
of your
you've
things.
created an environment here, boys. I would say, people feel very comfortable.
Good.
So
No more
thank
nudity
you.
in the gym, though, please.
No, but I often it's a hard thing here because often I forget towel. Anyway,
You need to before you go in a
I
shower.
just need like a reminder.
This isn't your actual house where the towel just lives in the bathroom.
Yeah.
But that's true because you get straight out of the gym into the shower because it's a very homely feeling here.
Do you want to know a secret?
I've
Do you want to
done
know
it.
a
Yeah,
secret?
let's
though?
blame that.
If you open the drawers under the sink, Anita, who is our
Shout out to
cleaner
Anita.
and probably most valuable member of
100%.
staff by far, I'd say, there are emergency towels in there.
Okay, good to know.
So for the next time it happens, which it will happen,
Maybe I enjoy the journey.
open the drawer. If I see you sort of scuttling
you've
around,
told
I'm like,
us.
oh, he's doing it on.
scuttling.
Now he
naked
knows
about
where the
place.
emergency towels are. He's
You're really going to put people off coming to this gym.
well. I don't know about that.
Depends.
If we move the towels into the
We'll
change
get a
room,
membership spike after this goes out.
Let's
Like,
get Jack back on
I've
the
heard
pod.
about the naked Welsh guy. What's next for you? What's coming up? I know that you were working away a lot of last year. So
Yeah,
we didn't
so I was away for I think 6 months totally of last year up in Glasgow filming, which was great. So doing a series called The Buccaneers for Apple, which is coming out I think in the summer.
something to look forward to
Yeah,
then.
I think it's coming out early summer, but one of those tentative dates that I can't actually say anything, but basically around then.
Yeah.
So that was a lot of fun, sort of period drama. For people who haven't seen it, it's sort of within that world of. It's an Edith Wharton novel that they've adapted, but it's quite like fun. It's quite sexy, kind of Bridgerton-esque.
That's your vibe.
World.
Fun and sexy.
That's my. They when they were putting those words on a whiteboard in the writers' room.
There were only one man
There's
for the
only
job.
one- the Venn diagram ended up with my face in the middle. Yeah.
And it was
But
another
only when he speaks Welsh.
another job that gave you an opportunity to bring back your beautiful mustache.
Yeah, and Burns, which
It was
is
such a
like-
good look.
It was
though.
amazing.
It
The
was an
chops and
interesting look.
tash.
Look, it's one of those that when they did it in the makeup test and you've got like the Victorian garb on, you've got the tash and the chops, you think, okay, cool, that's it, that's the character, right?
Yeah.
And then you immediately leave and you go to like quite like a working class pub in Glasgow.
Yeah.
And as soon as you walk in, you get like
Who's
10
this
comments
guy?
into the first minute. You're like, oh, I've got to live with this for 6 months.
Yeah.
So I've really felt the mutton
You-
chops. Am
Am I right in thinking though you gained a bit of traction on Edward Blamel's Instagram? You get quite a lot of people requesting to see a picture of you. I think there was a.
I think maybe just since the tash and the chops. I think
Yeah.
that.
I mean, that's entirely
when you
what I'm
talk about
saying.
Yeah.
infographics and all that kind of stuff.
Since the tash and the chops, you would appear in a few stories here and there, and he was getting who's the friend with the mustache.
People like the mustache.
Yeah, I think bring it back, keep it at all
I
times.
think we should have 2 different infographics, right? And one's what happens to your membership rates once they hear about
is
my
mustache Jacob.
nudity.
Is that Welsh
And
Jacob?
then,
Oh,
okay,
Charming.
wow.
I
Attractive.
think it's a version of Jacob, which is another podcast we should do.
But
versions of Jacob.
A version of Jacob.
there's some people with
Like a partridge.
There's another client we've got at the minute who's got the tash and chops.
Who's got the tash?
I don't want to say it because he doesn't like it and he doesn't really enjoy the look of it. It doesn't really work on some
Can't
people.
even picture who it is.
Are you saying that?
No, he has said it.
He's saying that.
said it before I say he doesn't look good.
Okay.
Whereas it suited you very well.
Oh, thank you very much.
Whereas
Well, we'll
he's
see.
gone.
I've started now. It's like classic, you know. Then I see a photo now, and I kind of think, oh, actually, it didn't look
Bring
too
it
bad.
back.
But when you're in it, it's like, you know,
How
It's a
can we
lot
make
of
it's a
responsibility.
lot. It's a lot of responsibility to carry something.
You got to.
I think people attach a certain personality to you as well. Like, there's a different thing if you're in like
Yeah.
modern clothes and you're in like,
Well,
and you're
if
in East London
if
or
you're
somewhere, like people like,
Yeah.
I'm getting like respect, like nods from like baristas.
Yeah.
you know what I mean?
Equally
I'm like,
though.
I'm not that.
Equally though, if you're shuffling around in the changing area of the gym without a towel, no clothes on, with the mustache,
Yeah, it's different. It's
That's
a
where you wanna
version
be-
of Jacob.
that's where you want to be careful.
Ah,
That's
please-
not a version we welcome.
But why?
Please
why?
hear again.
Well, yeah, there is a sort of connotation to a mustache. It's either kind of like you want to be more Magnum PI than sort of like Dick Dastardly. You know what I mean?
Yeah, yeah.
There was-
You were beautifully in the middle of the two.
Yeah.
That's what I'm always aiming
Yeah, it
for.
was great.
There was a guy left the gym the other day, not this gym, the gym that I go to, and he was fully like he had the proper big Prada sunglasses on, the long
it Ed?
trench coat, real big boots on, and
Yeah.
it was just like London Fashion Week look.
Okay.
And he swept his trench coat round his waist as he left, and everyone in the change room just sort of
Wow.
looked. It was like he's off for his coffee, he's off
Yeah,
to meet the
maybe
girls. off
I'd
to meet
like
the
to have
guys.
that sort of level of confident swagger. Maybe when I
When
leave the
we
gym.
eventually get round to
I
this
feel ill.
recording in Aberystwyth,
yeah.
we'll adopt that
We'll,
look.
we'll dabble in that.
Well, until then, I'm going to say thank you very much for coming
was
on to
mad.
the podcast.
Thank you so much.
What a
for
way to
having
end.
me. Yeah.
It's been great fun.
I love you.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Should we
sure.
sign off with a poem?
We've not had that before.
We can sign off with a poem.
Please do. Please do.
Do I have to? Shall I just open it on a? Do you want to choose a number and then?
Can
I'll-
I choose one?
Yeah, you can
Thank you.
choose one.
What are you looking for? You don't understand Welsh.
Well, it doesn't mean I can't choose one.
No, but what are you looking for? Something in
It's like
particular?
vibes based.
Well, I like this is the first one I've opened on, and I'm going to give it a
I
crack.
bet it's going to be the same one that I've.
E. Dylanwad.
Sorry.
Is that?
Oh, Dylanwad.
I mean, I wasn't miles away.
Okay, ready? Okay, so let's do a little one.
Just a little.
Pan y mi na daw, fel yr enfys ar glaw, fel odlau yr eos ger y gwyrddaf yn draw. Nid mwy annibynnol y seraf y sydd yn disgyn ar donau diweddaf y dydd, pan fyddo'r gorllewin rhwng hian a môr, fel I dragwy ddolfyd, a ffurfio y ddŵr.
Weirdly moving, considering.
I don't know what it means.
Yeah. I have no idea, but I feel
But it
moved.
sounds nice.
You've got to take me for a drink first, Jacob.
Dylanwad. Nice one. Cheers, mate.